five figures to be in. But it wasn't always this way. I wasn't always the woman that I am standing in front of you here today. I've had my own challenges in life to overcome, and I've had to learn my own story and the stories, shut down the stories I have in my own head to start being the person I'm meant to be in the world and to help others connect with their story as well. You see, I have a calling on my life. I have something that I think about every morning when I wake up, and I can't help but think about when I go to sleep. It's something that if I wasn't doing it, it's all I would think about, and I would feel like I need to be doing that. For me, that's storytelling. For me, that's connecting other people with story. For me, that's helping others get to know their own story and to release the stories that are not true so that they can begin to replace them with other stories. But why is that? Why did I pick that as my mission, or why did I feel that as my calling? Well, it comes in a few parts. As I said, I stand here as a coach and a speaker, but there was a time in my life where I was just a kid, right? When I was 15 years old, I was struggling with the voices in my own head. I had been abused by more people than I can count on my own two hands. I had these stories in my head that said, it's your fault. It's your fault that he touched you that way. It's your fault that she slapped you. It's your fault that they abandoned you. And I listened to that story. And I allowed that story to be how I showed up in the world. I didn't feel like I owned my own body. I didn't feel like I owned my own life. And one summer, as I had just turned 15, a night after a wedding that just so happened to be for a man who had assaulted me in my own home once before that, but no one knew that at the time. I found myself in my own living room with alcohol from the after party that the adults had at our house. And I decided to see how drunk I could get. You know, I was a teen. I had curiosity, and I figured, I'm going to try this. And me and my pain poured that first glass. And as I poured it and I drank that first Denny's cup filled to the brim with tequila, I drank it, and I started to feel just a little bit better. And then I poured another glass of what I think was cinnamon-flavored brandy. What a combo, right? I started to feel a little bit better. And then I thought, how much of this do I need to drink to never feel any of this pain ever again? I did my best attempt to find that out that night. I poured another glass and I drank it, and I poured a glass and I drank it, until I couldn't remember anything at all. I couldn't remember even the faces of my own abusers. And then I woke up in the morning to my mother standing over my body screaming, Rosie, Rosie, wake up, my baby, wake up, please. And then I felt the rub of an EMT rubbing my sternum as they tried to wake me up, and as I gasped, I looked around and had no idea where I was, even though I was on the floor of my mother's living room. And the next few moments were a blur as I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. When I got there, I was yelled at by a very angry nurse who was upset at me for drinking as a teen, and she gave me a lecture. I then had to be bathed in an ice-cold shower by my mom, because at that point, I was still so drunk that I couldn't even bathe myself. Later that day, as I was finally laying in the hospital bed alone, I was staring up at those fluorescent lights above me, and all I could think about was what it was like to see my own mother's face when she thought that she had lost me. And that face pained me, and I never wanted to see that face again. I never wanted to hurt anybody else again. And I realized that I may not love me right now. I may not know how to determined to figure out why I wasn't allowed to leave this earth that day. That's where my story began. My story began by taking inventory of those stories in my head that had been put on me by other people, by the actions they had had towards me, by the way that they had treated me, by the way that they had neglected me. I was first going to take inventory of those stories so that I could detox those and replace them with something better. Replace them with what should have been there in the first place. I realized that day that it wasn't 15-year-old me that was calling out for help. It was 4-year-old me, 5-year-old me, 8-year-old me, 10-year-old me. It was my inner child that was calling out for help. She needed to be saved. She needed to be loved. She needed to be healed. And I think that's important for all of us. All of us have an inner child in us. And oftentimes it's where we respond to life from. We respond from, if we respond in anger, typically it's anger from that child that felt neglected in some way. And now they're screaming through our adult bodies to try and beg for what it is that they need. So what is it that your inner child is holding on to? What is the story that your inner child is telling you or is screaming at you to answer so that you can start to rewrite that narrative and move towards what you were meant for in this world, not what other people placed upon you? My drinking problem started when I was a teenager, and I wish I could say that it ended that day in the hospital, but it didn't. I struggled with that for a long time after that. There was a time in my life where I was in the military, and I was in college, and I was working in social work all at the same time. I realized that I was working to keep myself busy, because if I was busy, I was no longer in that place from lack and scarcity that I came from. Now I'm successful. Now I am something. Now I am somebody. Now I'm doing something. I'm healed. That's what I told myself. But do you know what I was doing when I wasn't working or going to school those 95 hours a week? I was drinking. Because once I was at home, in my own living room, I felt alone. I felt alone with those stories, and alcohol seemed like the only way to drown out those voices in my head at the time. So I would drink any chance that I got. And it got to a point that if I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about drinking. And then that same year, in 2016, after I had been married, I graduated from college, I retired from the military, all within a few months. And then as 2017 rolled around, I found myself with a lot more time. A lot more time to sit and think. A lot more time to connect with myself. And I made a conscious decision that I don't want to spend all of this free time drinking. I want to spend this time figuring out why it is I drink in the first place. So I decided to replace the time I spent drinking with painting. I had loved painting my entire life. Since as young as I was and could pick up a brush or even finger paint in preschool, I loved painting. And when I was painting, I wasn't thinking about my trauma. I was in my own world, and so I began painting. Any chance I got, I would sit in my living room and I would paint. I would sit on the floor with my legs crossed, and after a while, I could feel my inner child sitting in my lap with me. And I would paint, and I would journal. I continued painting for months, continuing to heal and connect with myself. And then one day, I realized it's not just a dream in my belly. I got the most wonderful news. I was pregnant. Me and my husband were going to welcome our first child into the world. And when I got that amazing news, I made a decision. I was going to give up alcohol completely. It had never done anything good for my life, and I wasn't going to bring the pain and trauma that came along with it into motherhood with me. So I started seeking out therapy and doing whatever it was I needed to do to heal for that child, listening to motivational speakers, reading books, writing affirmations, telling myself I love you in the mirror every morning. I'm proud to say that I stand in front of you now, 7 years completely sober from alcohol. And I can thank my child for that. I can thank my child for being the thing I needed in my life to do what I was too afraid to do for myself. Becoming a mother is what fueled my inspiration for going towards my dreams. I wanted to go for my dreams and play as big and as full out in the world that I could, so that my child could look up to me and think, wow, if mommy can do it, I can do anything that speaks to me as well. I can play as full out in the world as I want to too. I can tell my story too. Or whatever it was that little baby dreamed of doing in the world. They wouldn't start at setback. They would start just above the start line. They would get a head start in life because I pushed past my own discomfort and allowed myself to heal in all the ways that I needed to be healed. For me, I needed to get back to my roots, to get back to art, to get back to color, to connect with my inner child. It may be different for you. It could be writing, it could be going outside, it could be cooking, it could be even doing math. Some people love math as a kid. That could be what your inner child needs. But I invite you to think about that thing that makes you feel the most happy and to start spending more time doing that. You love that thing then, and you love that thing now for good reason. Find time to do that. And as you do that, invite your inner child in. And as you spend more time doing that thing that you love doing with your inner child, you'll have a chance to detox all the negativity that you're holding on to from the past. Those things that your inner child went through that have now manifested into pain or hurt or anger or frustration as an adult. I was going to paint until I found something else to help me heal. Over time, I realized that for me, that was storytelling. At one point in 6th grade, my teacher had asked me to be the class speaker at graduation. And I remember that moment so vividly. I stood up on that stage and I looked at my classmates and I felt this rush of inspiration. But it wouldn't be until college until I got back on the stage. But every time I got the opportunity to get on a stage and to tell a story or to teach a workshop or to run even a work meeting, I felt at home. I felt purposeful. I felt like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do. I had thought back to when I was 11 years old and I had watched the movie The Secret. And I loved what those teachers were talking about. They were talking about how if you have a vision in life and you believe it wholeheartedly, you can move towards that. Anything you can believe, you can achieve. And I believed that I could do that. So I started moving towards that. And I remembered this YouTube video I had watched from Matt Diavella where he talked about a 3-year plan. Because I'm all about instant gratification, right? Or at least I used to be. I used to want things to happen right now. I want to start it today and I want it to work out tomorrow. I don't want to wait. I just want it to work. I want to put in all my effort and then reap what I sowed. But Matt reminded me it's not that simple. He reminded me that when you set a goal, you need to give at least 3 years of you putting in 100% of the effort to see results from that. And then when you get to that 3-year mark, if you're not exactly where you're trying to go yet, take inventory and see how far you've come. And ask yourself, is it worth it to keep going? Have I made enough strides to keep going? So I set my own 3-year plan. In 2019, I was working as a social worker. I was serving underprivileged youth was going to use that job in social work to be the investor in that dream so that I could meet who I needed to meet, go where I needed to go, and learn what I needed to learn to figure out how I could get there. And so I did that. And as the first year rolled around, I attended a speaking conference and I got into a public speaking class. And by my own shock, I was humbled at the end of the first year when I was invited back to be a coach in that same course. And I thought, wow, this is really going great. As the second year rolled around, I started writing my first book. And then as the second year started to end, one day I got this email from my boss that said, Rose, let's sit down and talk about how things are going soon. I thought, things are going great. What are we going to talk about? I know I had a little bit of pushback between me and my supervisor over the summer, but we've worked through that and we're good. I don't know what we need to talk about, but okay. So the next week I came into the office at the job I had worked at for 7 years. I pulled up my chair, I sat at my desk, and I opened that laptop, and I got into that Zoom meeting. Soon after I got into the meeting, my boss got on, and then a manager from HR. And soon after they opened the call, they said, Rose, we're letting you go. And those words hit me like a spear to my heart, and instantly I could feel my cheeks turning red hot as tears started rolling down my face, and I turned off the camera, and I continued listening to them, but I was no longer in that meeting. Now I was in my own head. I was wondering, what have I done? What am I going to do? My husband just quit his job a month ago to be a stay-at-home dad, to support me in the pursuit of this dream. I'm letting everybody down. What have I done, and what am I going to do? I laid in bed that night, not sure of anything, not sure of myself, and definitely not sure of my future. And then when I woke up the next morning, as I wiped the crust from my eyes from crying, and I slowly started to get myself out of bed, I remembered, I set that goal. I was going to be my own boss. I am my own boss. It's just a year sooner than I had planned to. I don't know if I'm going to be a good boss. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know that this is where I am right now, and I'm going to make the best of it. So over the next 2 weeks, I finished writing that book, and when I published it the next month on the largest publishing platform in the world, I became a #1 best-selling author. And as a year later, as I finally reached that 3-year mark of when I had set that goal, I found myself standing on stage at the same exact conference I had set that goal, standing right next to Lisa Nichols, telling a part of my story, because I refused to let my circumstances determine my future. I allowed my own grit and determination to determine that instead. I said, I'm going to write how it goes. I'm not going to let the timeline I thought that I had steal my dream from me. I'm going to keep pursuing and going for it regardless of where I'm at right now. What it is you want to do in 3 years. What is your 3-year plan? What is your 3-year goal? But don't be so married to what happens in between. What happens in between day 1 and the end of that 3 years. Keep going for it and allow yourself to release the expectations in your own mind and let things unfold naturally. Allow yourself to meet the right people, to go to the right places, to go to the wrong places so that you can see how wrong they feel and inspire you to keep seeking those right places and those right people. And then at the end of that 3 years, you can ask yourself, was this worth it? Did I learn enough? Does this feel right? Or did I give this one dream enough effort that I'm able to let it go? Or maybe, did it even open a door to something I didn't even consider 3 years ago? were a stranger, and I had built up this professional military bearing that although I was still fun and silly with my close friends, anytime I got into a professional setting, that was turned off. And as I was trying to become this speaker that would pour my heart out on stage, anytime I would turn on the camera to record my videos for that class, stone face. Hello, I am Rose, and this is my story. No emotion, no nothing. And I wanted to break that down. So what I did was I showed up to every class. Even if I was at that social work job, riding around in the car with my clients, I would have the meetings on my Bluetooth. And they'd be in class right there with me. If I was at home and my son was running around in the background, well, that's just how we're doing class today. And then when they'd give us homework, do this, try this technique out, try this pregnant pause, try this newly you, give us your snap. What do you do in your business? I would do those videos over and over and over and over again. And it wasn't so I could be seen in the community, it was because I felt that stone wall breaking down just a little bit more every time I did a video. And as I wrapped up the first round of class, I thought, I'm okay with where I've come, and I want to go even farther. So I jumped into the next round. And I kept pounding out those videos. I kept showing up for every class. I even kept encouraging everybody else, commenting on their videos, telling them how amazing they're doing, asking them to do it again, tell me again, I love that story, do it again. But then, as the class wrapped up, I thought, I didn't do enough. I'm supposed to like feel inspired or something, and like, I don't. I'm still questioning myself. Do I need to do more? Do I need to try again? Did I show up completely? Those voices from when I was a child, where I was criticized constantly, started to pop up. And I was questioning myself, did I do enough? Did I do enough? As I was in that fight with myself, and I was considering paying for another course, even though the financials were a stretch at the time, they were such a stretch. I was willing to invest that money again, just to get where I needed to get, to feel how I needed to feel. And as I was in that, I got a call. Hello? What do you need? You want me to come back and be a coach? You know you called Rose, right? Like, you know you called me. You were impressed by what I did. You liked my videos. You guys really think that I've become a great speaker over this year? Okay. Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'll do it. As I hung up that phone, I thought, I'm not sure that I'm ready to coach in that. But if they see something in me that I don't yet see, I'm going to show up anyways. And I'm going to try. And that was the moment where I reminded myself, those voices in my head are wrong. Those voices in my head aren't mine. They come from somebody else. Somebody else said something to me in my past, and I held on to that. And now I'm going to replace those voices, because I set out for this dream for a reason. I believe I can. And I kept telling myself that. I believe I can. I believe I can. I've come this far. I'm going to see how far I can go. And I'm going to do the work on myself, on my finances, on my life, on my career, along the way to get there, to get to a point where I believe I deserve to be that. And I'm also going to question, why did I ever think that in the first place? And I'm going to do the work to get rid of that. I had to give myself the permission to have 1,000-second chances. I kept re-recording those videos, not because I didn't think the first one was perfect, because I knew I could do better the next time. I knew that I could keep growing. I knew that even if that video didn't feel perfect, I had another chance. And another chance after that, and another chance after that. Many of us have the tendency to give up when we fail, to look at failure and say, well, that's it. I'm not good at that. I'm not trying again. But we have to find it within ourselves to give ourselves the permission to fail, because failure is actually the opportunity for learning and growing. If you give yourself the permission to have 1,000 chances and 1,000 more after those chances, you'll keep growing and learning every time. Treat each failure as a learning opportunity. Take from it, what did I do right here? And what could I improve on? How can I take this experience and apply it to keep moving forward? Repetition, repetition, repetition. Try and try again until you're satisfied with the results, until you feel full well in your body and in your DNA, I've got this. This is me. I am good at this. Do it until there's no doubt in your mind. And then, that's right, do it again. Do it again. One thing that I want to leave you with is how much storytelling, both spoken and written, has changed my life. When I sat down to write my book, I thought, this is going to be 3 months while I'm on maternity leave with my second child. I'm going to write some stories from my life down, put them together, put a pretty cover on it. Cool. Done. Easy. And then when I got to that writing process, I realized, as I wrote those stories of my life out, how much more there was to heal there. And as I would heal with the paper, I would also heal with my therapist sometimes, and she helped me have closure on things. And then I'd return to the paper and I'd write some more. And sometimes I'd write 20 pages and then I'd burn them. I realized that this story doesn't need to be in the book, but I needed to write it down so that I could release it. I invite you to do the same thing in your life. If there's something in your life where you're like, I'm not exactly sure why that happened, or I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, I invite you to start writing it down in a journal, on some Post-it notes if you need to. Whatever works for you to make you feel like you've gotten out. Something I also did when I was writing my book was I would use speak-to-text from Google. You just speak, and it'll type it out into a document right there. And when you take the time to do that, then later you can go back and reread that. And there's something about having your own story in black and white staring back at you that makes you connect with it deeper. You're able to put things together in a way that never made sense before. And you're like, wow, now I know why I felt like that. And I can let that go. Now I know why I was still mad at him. And I can forgive him. I don't need to forget, but I can forgive. And I can let that pain go. I can let that pain go and open up another spot in my heart instead of allowing that pain to take up space. I invite you to write. I invite you to use writing to discover who you really are and where you've been so that you can move towards what you want to be doing. And you know what? Burn a few pages along the way if you need to. Burn a few pages. And also invite that inner child in to write with you. Ask them, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you went through? What did it look like for you back then? And how does it look for me as an adult now? How does that experience look like? And how can we heal that together? I've got something from my book that I want to read to you as we close out here. If I could talk to 15-year-old Rose. Dear 15-year-old Rose, keep your head up. I promise it gets better. I'm so proud of you for giving life a second chance, even when you feel like giving up every day. The lack and the toxic environment you are in are only temporary. If you keep following that beautiful light in your mind, the future is going to be so abundant. I'm so proud of the way you care for your mother, your brother, your sister, and the rest of your family. When they need it, you put everyone in front of yourself. You stay strong for those who love you. You are capable of anything you put your mind to. You may feel yourself struggling to read and keep a straight train of thought most of the time right now, but I promise you, one day you will be an author, a writer, and an amazing speaker. You will teach courses that help others tap into their abundance, the same abundance you struggle to feel now. Although you may not feel smart now, I am proud of you for pushing through anyways and always trying your best to learn. You will outgrow your learning disability, you will go off to college, and you will one day be able to learn anything you want to learn without the restricting feeling of feeling held back by your own abilities. I'm proud of you for getting your first job. I'm proud of you for making up those credits. I'm proud of you for no longer accepting failure as an option. I'm proud of you for that D in math class, because guess what? You passed. It amazes me that after getting a 0.3 GPA, that's right, not a 3.0, but a 0.3 GPA your freshman year, you managed to turn that around and get focused on your schooling despite your challenges. I'm proud of you for always having a big and loving heart, even after all the times that you have been hurt. You still find a way to open yourself up to people. There will always be times that this may get you into trouble and get you hurt in the future by people who take advantage. You will learn to make that transparency and authenticity your gift. Keep wearing your heart on your sleeve. People will seek you out because you are willing to be vulnerable in front of others, to share those things that others may need to hear. Sweet, kind-hearted 15-year-old me, I know some days the world seems dark and you want to be mean and hurtful like the kids at school who step all over you. But I'm so proud of you for not giving into that. You refuse to let this cold world put out the flame in your tender little heart. I'm proud of you for crying alone in your room almost every night because you are in touch with your emotions and you're okay with admitting that you're hurt. You may feel soft now, but that emotional openness will grow into empathy for others that will allow you to foster healing for those that need it. I'm so proud of you for continuing to get your family up at 7 a.m. every Sunday to go to church because you know you need food for your soul. I'm proud of you that even though you question Christianity, you still embark in powerful prayer and you stay active in the church community, always volunteering for the next community service opportunity and always putting in the extra work to earn your way on mission trips. Even at a young age, you think about how you can make a difference in the world. You exude empathy for others. I know that awareness often weighs on your shoulders because you feel like one small person who can't make a difference. But you get up anyways and you try to make what little difference you can. I promise you that one day you will impact the world. I'm proud of you for holding on. I see you struggle with the feedback you get sometimes, but it's better for you to put yourself out there to be judged than to hide who you really are in fear of being criticized. I'm proud of you for always being true to yourself, even when other people think you're weird. It amazes me how you are unapologetically yourself, and you will only do more of that in the future. I know you struggle with drinking and chronically smoking weed because you just want the pain to go away. I understand you made those choices because you don't know how else to deal with those feelings. You will release that grip one day as you learn to heal by confronting the feelings that hurt you the most. As you learn to overcome those hurts, you will replace that need to numb with your own creativity. You will be an artist who paints or writes when you need to express yourself instead of shoving those emotions deep down. You will be so proud of yourself. You woke up in the hospital only 5 days after your 15th birthday. You almost died that day. After seeing your mom and your family so hurt when they thought they had lost you, you made the decision to go on. You made the choice to start living and taking life seriously and healing. You promised yourself you would make your second chance at life count. I am so grateful that we failed at death that day. We have done an amazing job at making life meaningful. You survived yourself, and you will survive everything else that tries to stop your greatness. I love you, 15-year-old Rose. You will find home one day, I promise. Just keep striving. That's what 15-year-old me needed to hear. What is it that 5-year-old you, 7-year-old you, 10-year-old you, even 18-year-old you needs to hear? I invite you to go home today and write that. Write that letter to yourself at that young, tender age where you were hurt the most, or where your worldview was shattered because of something someone did to you, or something they said to you, or just the way that somebody made you feel. Write that letter and change that story. I encourage you to keep taking inventory of those stories you hold in your head that were placed there by somebody else. Take inventory of them and start replacing them with something else. Write yourself affirmations. Tell yourself, I love you in the mirror. Find mentors that uplift you and speak truth and love into you, that speak inspiration into you and help you tap into the greatness that so many of us on the outside already see in you, but you're blocked from seeing by a story that was placed in front of you that you never asked for. I answered the calling on my life, the calling of storytelling, the calling of healing, the calling of helping others connect with their own story. That's what felt like home to me. That's what felt like truth and love to me. That's the thing that used to keep me up at night, and still does, because I'm passionate about it, and I want to play full out, and I want to touch as many people and their stories as I can in the beautiful time I have on this earth. So I ask you, what is the impact that you want to make in the world? What is it that you love doing? What is it that you've always loved doing? And how can you find more time for that? Who is it that you want to help? And what stories do you want to change? I see so much greatness and potential in this room. I've heard so many amazing stories from all of you today. And I know if you continue on the path you're on, there is people out there waiting to hear your story. Each of us were given a unique gift and a unique story. And if we don't take the time to hone that and play full out in the world, the unique gifts that we have will leave this earth with us. So I invite you to do what you need to do the work, to give your gifts to the world, because somebody out there needs it. Somebody out there needs to hear your story. I thank you so much for coming here today and for hearing my story. I hope one day that I get the opportunity to hear more of your stories as well. And I want to leave you with this one question. How will you answer the calling on your life?